Hello and welcome to Middle Earth Readings. Today it is the 24th of April and we are looking at creating some spirit inspiration for you for your week ahead. How is weird flowing? What energies are available to us? We'll also be working with the phase of the waxing moon. So the moon, lovely new moon, some quite oomphy energies as well with the solar eclipse last week. It was a really powerful start to our new moon in Manas energy, continuing the energy of sovereignty, of standing in our personal sovereignty. We were looking at risk and reward, at taking courageous action last week. This week we're going to be looking at the theme of solitude and service. I'm going to be sharing with you a little theory of mine, which is that Odin is an introvert. I'm sharing that with you in a moment. So just to say, apologies that we are starting late. My camera and microphone wouldn't connect to Facebook for some reason, but that all seems to be sorted now. So apologies for those of you who have been waiting for me to start. Please do give me a wave in the comments. Let me know how you are doing. I would love to know what rune you are working with at the moment. We're going to be working with 6 runes today, so I'm going to let you know what they are today so that you're aware. If I don't share your rune, then still, what is present for you as I'm speaking? What's present for you when you think about the combination of your rune and what it means with the theme both of sovereignty? We're looking at abundance as well, this idea of drawing in abundance, of being able to manifest, of being the sovereigns of our realms and what do we want for them. And we're looking at this idea of solitude and service. So what resonates with you when you think about your rune and the meaning of your rune? Morning Candice, morning Suzanne. So the runes that we're going to be working with, we're going to be working with Lagus, the rune of water. So soon as Chariot, the sun, moves into Lagus this week, and that's the only planetary movement we've got. The rest, they're staying put. So we've got that resonant energy, that continuation of last week's energy, but just that shift into the flowing, what's the word that I'm looking for? Rebirthing, energizing, cleansing energy of water with Suna's Chariot. It does bring us a little bit more of a seer, more of our oracular awareness into the mix with Suna's Chariot in Lagus, which I'm really looking forward to. And I can see that people are sharing. What have we got here? So Candice, your lunar rune is Manas, which is lovely given that we've got that new moon in Manas, and your daily rune is Isa. Suzanne says mine is Dargaz. Odin, definitely an introvert. I'm glad that I've got somebody who agrees already. Maggie says my lunar is Feu, so I'm recovering from my cold, so I have enough life force to do my thing. Yes, that's what we want. And Suzanne says Dargaz is coming strong for me as well. So yeah, lovely. So we've got some interesting energies here. So we've got that stability that comes with Manas that is being reflected in Candice's rune, with the Isa rune, that sort of strength. And that solitude energy resonates quite strongly there as well, Candice, with the Isa rune, that need for solitude to really stand in your power. And then we've got the more fiery runes of Dargaz and Feu. Dargaz right at the end of the rune row, Feu right at the beginning. Transformation comes through, and yes, energy, the flow of energy, really important for you there, Maggie, as well. The runes that we're going to be taking a deep dive into, so I've mentioned Lagus already. We're also going to be looking at Ansus. I think that's because Odin wanted to come and play with us today and talk about introversion and the receiving of wisdom externally and internally. So we're going to be looking at Ansus. We're going to be looking at Ewaz as well. Actually, let me just get my Ansus one. So there's Ansus here. So we're working with Ansus. We're going to be working with Ewaz here. Rune of partnership, collaboration. It is the rider and the steed. There is an energy with Ewaz of some people you can be with and you still feel as if you are alone because they get you. They get you so much, they give you space. You're comfortable with long silences. They're comfortable following you on that inward journey. So, and as with animals as well, or with nature as well. So solitude doesn't always mean alone, and we're going to be looking at that a little bit. We're working with Gibo as well. I can just see that Michelle has popped up and said that your runes are Gibo and Ansu, so we're working with both of them today. So Gibo, the rune of exchange, of fairness, of balance, of promises, oaths, contracts. Again, it is a stable rune, but it turns like a water wheel turning round. So it's almost like that structure that we need in order to keep the energy flowing comes through there. Lisa, you're saying your new moon Kinaz. Tommy, it wasn't finished with me yet. Your daily rune is Northeast, and Odin is definitely an introvert. Excellent. We've got quite a few votes for that. We're also going to be working with Wunyo. This is another one of Odin's runes. This is about ecstasy, and again, really useful for us in exploring the concept of solitude, because the Wunyo rune is about ecstasy. It's about kin, family, belonging. So it can feel as if it's quite an extroverted rune, very much, connecting with other people, and yet it is a deeply Odinic rune in the sense of communion, where we feel that sense of belonging, where we don't feel as if we need to hide any part of ourselves. We can find the energy of Wunyo both with others, in the bosom of our families, and out on a moor in nature, or reading a poem that touches us deeply when somebody else has written, and we feel that connection with them, or when we are bringing forth our own poetry, when we are acting as a channel for spirit. So all of these different ways in which we can think about solitude, not as loneliness, but about the power of alone time, and the way in which it can allow us to connect at a deeper, more profound level. And Chen, hi Chen, you also have Issa this week, like Candice, you're working on that. Now, have I shared all of those? No, so we have Algis. So Algis is our last rune that we're going to be working with and taking a deep dive into. Really elusive, the Algis rune for me this morning. I had to search through the pack for some time to find the Algis rune. I thought, Algis is missing, which is really interesting, because I'm doing some connection work with Algis for the Dream Wheel retreat that's going to be opening this evening. Looking forward to that. We're going to be doing a little bit of rune magic for those of you who are joining me on the Dream Wheel retreat Beyond the Veils. So let's have a little play with what Odin wants to share around solitude and service. So I believe that Odin is an introvert because he is so many things. He is not simply the All-Father, sort of seated on the throne, proclaiming what needs to happen and being in charge and being loud. He can do that, he can be the roaring thunder, he can be the mighty roarer, but he is also a wanderer and a sage and a shaman, and he leaves his throne very regularly. There are legends of, at the winter time, that Ul, the god of winter and the hunt, ascends to the throne during that period of time, leaving Odin there. It is said that he shares the throne with Frigg, who is his wife, and it's an equal partnership. It's not like she's subservient to him. When he goes, she's in charge, so that they share the throne. He goes every day to speak to Saga, who is one of the handmaidens of Frigg, sometimes considered to be like an aspect of Frigg. And he goes and he speaks to her to seek wisdom. He's always out and about. He wanders the world. He hangs upon the world tree to find the runes. 9 days and 9 nights, he's undertaking this experience where he is deeply alone. And in that moment of aloneness, he is expanding outwards, this state of shamanic ecstasy, very much encapsulated by the Wunyo rune. This idea of he sacrifices his what do I want to say? He takes his spear and he cuts himself. He doesn't eat, he doesn't drink during these 9 days and these 9 nights. And this is very much an idea of an intensive shamanic rite of passage that he's undertaking, where we move deeper and deeper into ourselves until the point where we expand outwards and we connect with the all, with the one, alone, all one. And Odin, to my mind, personifies the pursuit of wisdom, which is about seeking guidance from others. Not saying I know everything. So there is a sense of connecting with other people, but he then has these times of silence where he reaches inwards to find the deeper meaning. And this is very much what introversion means, really. Carl Jung started this process of thinking about extroversion and introversion, and for lots of schools of thought, when they were drawing from Carl Jung's work, they took a meaning that probably wasn't actually intended in his work, but they took it to mean that an introvert was somehow like a broken or like dysfunctional extrovert, that somehow I'm shy, I can't be out there, which is totally untrue. Now, that is not what introversion actually means. It's a myth, and it is very harmful. And there's been a lot of work. There's a book called Quiet, which is very nice. There's lots of has been written now about the power of introversion and why it's important. So some of the core differences between extroverts and introverts are that extroverts think with others by speaking out loud. They will say, I'm thinking this. They're quite happy to bring, let's say, unfinished thoughts into the moment. Bear with me one moment. I've just dropped something. One moment, caller, I will return. Apologies, that was me in an introverted way, running off and coming back again. So extroverts think out loud. They're quite happy to share an unfinished thought. They're looking for inspiration from others, and the conversation is flowing. Introverts receive and they process inside. So they will listen to a conversation and look for, what's the pattern, what's the meaning, what's the thing, and they'll often come at the end of a conversation and they'll bring that little nugget of wisdom, that thing that's been brewing. It's like they take all of the stuff and they put it into their cauldron, and they're stirring it around and they're alchemizing it, and then they bring out something that they've spent some time working on. And obviously, we actually need both. Wisdom comes both from discussion between people and from deep thought. And for most of us, we might have a preference. We might have, I know that the way that you know that you have a preference is that you are energized by either that alone time, introvert, or by the time with lots of other people, extrovert. It's not that none of us can do either of those things. We can all enjoy a conversation, but an introvert will feel more tired after they've done that because they haven't had that time for processing, so they need to go away and do the processing. An extrovert will probably feel a bit tired if they've been on their own for too long and they're like, oh god, this is hard work. Now, there's also, I should say, a spectrum. Some people are ambiverts. So they're they're able to span both of those spaces, and sometimes they can feel energized by one or disenergized by another, and that's fine too. But if you know that you're an introvert, Odin is your man, in my view. It's also one of the reasons why, for me, Mercury, or Odin's chariot, is in retrograde. And when he goes into retrograde, we now call it the retreat. He is in retreat in Birth Rune Soul Journey, and the people who are on the Birth Rune Soul Journey program, hello, and I can see a couple of you here. We talk about him going into retreat, and I always think of that as being his introvert time, when he needs to go and process and think. And what he's doing through that time of solitude is he is actually stepping more fully into service. This is why I like solitude and service for introverts and for society in general. You know, even the most extreme extroverts will want to, you know, who are like, no, I never ever want to be alone, ever, 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 you know, might benefit from some time alone, or will want to have people who are introverted in their circle in order to have that access to our full spectrum of collective wisdom. Same way as people who are deeply, deeply introverted, you know, are going to, it's difficult to have an impact in the world if you're on your own all of the time, you know. Where was I with this? So Odin takes his retreat time and he processes at a deep level and he says, what do I need to do next? Where is the wisdom that I need? Where is the what decisions need to be made? And he accesses that part of himself so that when he returns to the throne, he comes renewed, he comes with new wisdom, he comes transformed, he comes having undertaken it. For those of you who have been on a retreat, whether a Zoom retreat or whether a delicious, away somewhere, actually physically, you know, on your own or in a small group, that sense of being renewed, rejuvenated, more alive, you know. And this is a theme that you'll find within the Northern tradition. It comes up, you know, again and again and again, this theme of death and renewal. That is almost a mini version of this cycle from an introverted energetic state to an extroverted energetic state. In, out, in, out. You're giving, you're giving, you're giving, you're giving, and then you need to release some of that. You know, the world needs something different from us. We have evolved, we have changed, our circumstances have changed in some way, and we move back inwards and we re-energize and we find that place of wisdom. You know, what's needed next? And then, renewed from that place, we move back out into the world again. It's like the winter and the summer. The summertime is we're so busy in the harvesting mode. Harvesting, I'm giving out of my energy, I'm doing all of that stuff. We need that wintering time, you know, that deep wintering time. So you can think about introversion and extroversion as being, I'm not actually doing the Yarrow rune today, but you could think about it as the two halves of the Yarrow rune. And what I think is important, we've talked about the Wunyo rune a little bit, I'm going to talk about the Ewaz rune now. In thinking about, here we go with the Ewaz rune here, thinking about partnership, is that with the Yarrow rune talks about this long cycle, you know, this cycle of the summer and the winter that are constantly partnering with each other. And if we think about this as introverted and extroverted, like life and death, we can see that is also happening in terms of mini cycles. You know, there are mini cycles taking place all the time. We work with the lunar month, for example, and you could say that as we move from the new moon into the waxing moon, where we are now, and we're sort of receiving, we're gathering in, we're harvesting all the energy of the runes that we're working with Odin at the moment. How can I work with it more fully? How can I be really engaged in that process? You know, through to the full moon. You know, I'm doing my magics now. I'm just setting. I will have set my intentions, but I'm manifesting now, creating those rune magics. And then we have that releasing process. Energetically, the process of the cycle of the year of growth and extroversion and looking outwards and doing the thing and being busy is then followed by one of letting go, releasing, emptying back down. And we can see that in so many different cycles. And I do see that with Odin's chariot or Mercury in retrograde. Interestingly, so that you know, if you think about cycles, Venus or Freak's chariot and Mercury or Odin's chariot don't just have the retrograde cycles like the planets. They also phase. They have phases like the moon. You know, probably can't see them as well, but our ancestors were apparently aware of this. You know, that they that the sun would have shadow upon them that we could see, that was visible from Earth. So they have other phases that are going through as well. So there's a cyclical process here. So whether you are what's the word I'm looking for? whether you are like a deep extrovert, I'm out there all of the time, I hate being on my own, or you're a deep introvert, you're saying, yes, I want to be alone as often as humanly possible. You still have a cycle. You still have an energy cycle. So you've got the external energy cycles and you've got the internal energy cycles that are working as well. Working with your birth runes can really help you with accessing some of those, thinking about what cycles might be important to you, looking at so Ewaz, I was mentioning, is my lunar rune. So I think about it very much in terms of collaboration. How did my introvert and my extrovert collaborate together to produce something hopefully wonderful and magnificent? But we also have cycles between people. So this is what the Ewaz rune, thinking about partnership, comes in. It can be about how well do I express my cyclical nature, and recognize that others are also operating through their own cycles. That when you come into a group, it's almost like a little constellation of planets coming through. You know, each has their own cycle, their own phasing, their own periods of time when they'll be in retrograde, in retreat, and then they'll be coming out again. And there is this dynamics of energetic dynamics between people that the Ewaz rune supports us with in terms of thinking about partnership. When do I engage? When do I disengage, and what wisdom do I then bring forward? When do I have really interesting, this great wisdom? And because I'm introverted, maybe I struggle to share it a little bit. But if you don't, if you're somebody who's very introverted, and you've got so much wisdom to offer into the world, it's then how do I do that? Do I have other people who I partner with who are more extroverted than me, who then become my champions? That's certainly something that I've used in the past. Now, I'm terrible at like networking events, like in-person networking events, because I find the energy is quite full on. But I'm very good at finding wonderful people who are extroverted in their energy, who we work really beautifully as a constellation together. And I offer them that chamber of being somebody who can see them, can see their truth, can help them through, and they help me in terms of saying, this is Maggie, la 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 la, all the bit that I hate. So you can start to look at, who are my constellation, who are the people who help me, who complements my energy cycles, as well as looking at what might I need to recognize that I want to do this. I want to share what I am receiving, and how am I going to do it, and how am I going to allow this. So I'm going to let you into a little secret now. So when I do Middle Earth readings, I love connecting with all of you. It's honestly, it's like possibly the highlight of my week. It's certainly the thing that when I miss it, I really feel like, oh, I feel so sad. But I also schedule in time for me to have a lie down and a sleep afterwards, because my introvert is knackered from doing that. So you can enjoy and take pleasure from being in the opposite energy to your, let's say, your preferred or natural energy. And that's fine. It's just saying, well, that's just part of my cycle. So Ewa says that, it says recognize your cycles, recognize how you can partner with other people in that process. So then we haven't done Ansu's yet, so let's look at Ansu's. Now Ansu's is interesting because it also almost reflects Odin's nature a little bit in that it says there's the duality here of the expression, this sort of cycle of two parts of the self, the introvert and the extrovert, the conscious mind, the subconscious mind. Odin is the all-father, Odin is the wanderer, he's moving and fluid and changeable, and yet he is also fixed and firm and solid, he needs to be able to do both. It is the in-breath and the out-breath with the Ansu's rune. It's that deep cycle, that drawing in and then breathing out, drawing in and breathing out that takes place. You'll notice that with the Ansu's rune in the Elder Futhark has one rune, but the Anglo-Saxon breaks up into other runes as well. And we have the Ash rune and the Oak rune, both come from Ansu's. And so we have these energies that are bound together in the Ansu's rune that then become the stable sovereign energy of the Oak tree and the more fluid, let's say magical energy of the ash tree are both embodied in the Ansus rune. So it's a different type of partnership. There is again, it's maybe thinking more about that cycle. How do I work with this idea of the breath moving, coming in? How do I draw in what energizes me? And what might deplete me a little bit. So it could be that if you are an introvert, what energizes me is my alone time when I breathe in. And what's going to deplete me, but I need to do it, I have to breathe out, is my extroversion time. If you're an ambivert, it might be about actually working intentionally on this so that you know that you are actually managing your energy. It can actually be, some people are like, oh yeah, it's a superpower, and it is a superpower, it's great. If you're able to say, I can be totally comfortable in a big group of people, I'm there, woohoo, I love it, I want to be in the spotlight. That's a very extrovert thing. I really want to be in the spotlight, in the day walking mode, as I think of it. Introvert is like, I want to be in the night walking mode, thank you very much. I want an unseen walker in the night, that sort of thing. And it can be a great superpower to walk through both, fabulous, but it can also mean that your breath almost becomes like shallow because you're not fully receiving from either of the modes. So it's just thinking that way about, okay, when I am doing my alone time as an ambivert, I'm going to really commit to that. I'm really going to commit to solitude and drink it in as fully as I can. And when I'm in my extrovert mode, I am fully committing to connection and being seen and visible and allowing that to energize and recharge me, to feel like the fire in the belly that comes from that. So it's working intentionally with your energy cycle is what is coming through there. Now that brings me on to the Algiz rune. You see the Algiz rune? Here we go. See, it's just hiding from me today, the Algiz rune. Here we go. The Algiz rune. I think it's like talking to me. I need to do a little bit more tweaking on the archetypal story work that we're going to be doing in the Dream Wheel retreat this evening. This is me just talking to you now. Here we go. So the Algiz rune is talking about the way in which we can draw on support when we need to. That we can create an invitation to our desir circles or to our spirit guides to be with us, to help us with this, to help us with moving into a space where I'm now going to withdraw out of the extroverted space. I'm going to feel my desir circle. I'm going to feel my my power animals, my guides, maybe my birth runes, like moving it around me and creating this protective space where I can be truly alone in that moment. And then other times we're going to be calling, again, we can call on the Algiz rune as the symbol there. We're going to be opening ourselves wide and saying, see me, I am here. You can see the Algiz rune as being like a person standing with their arms raised. It's often seen as if they're raised up to the gods, but it can also be about saying, I am prepared to be visible. I'm prepared to be seen. I'm prepared to take those risks. We were talking about risk and reward last week. That sense of saying, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to call on my guardians of spirit to be there with me as I do that and to offer that protection. And the chat is really distracting me by talking about the hokey cokey over there. Let me have a look at this. Let me engage with the hokey cokey and then I can get back into what's going on. Candice, Odin doing the magical hokey cokey with his retrograde. Yes, magical hokey cokey, indeed. And there is, it's a weaving. The hokey cokey is a dance. There's a lady, a teacher that I know, Susie Heath, she's called, she's a magnificent teacher working in the space of self-love, of loving connection with others, of standing in your true feminine or masculine power. It's great work. And she says you should never work with somebody unless you know you can dance with them. And I love that as an idea. That, and she does a lot of dance work, and I've done some really beautiful dance work with her where you go around the space and you will find a partner and you will dance with them and move together and not mirror each other's movements but look to flow into each other. It's an incredibly powerful way of working out pretty fast whether your rhythms are compatible. And what Susie says is, she really says, if you then say, right, we're going to split apart and go and find another partner because our rhythms weren't compatible, that's not a bad thing. It doesn't mean either of you is wrong. There is no judgment about it. It simply means our rhythms, I think about it, for this lifetime maybe, or just for this year maybe, or just where I am right now, aren't compatible. So I'm going to find someone who is. And it's that sense of, we're always doing the hokey-cokey of life. And Odin sometimes needs to say, okay, my rhythm isn't compatible with anybody right now. I'm going back inside. Thank you very much. I am recentering into my own rhythm. Now, this is important as well for those of you who are empathic, who are deeply empathic. What can happen is that you are so connected to other people that you start to merge with their rhythm. I know that happens to me. Slightly different thing to being introverted. You can be introverted and not have that happen, but you can also be someone for whom that happens, and you end up when you're dancing their rhythm. And if you do that for too long, you're no longer in your own rhythm at all, and then you start to lose energy. You start to lose energy, you start to lose momentum, you disconnect from purpose, you disconnect from your power, because you're moving in their rhythm too much. And so this sense of retreating and finding your own rhythm again and dancing alone for a period of time. What's my rhythm? And then going back into the dance again is another way of thinking about introversion and extrovert. Introversion is simply, I'm going to spend some time dancing alone to find my own rhythm once more, to connect maybe with the group. And then I'm going to go and find a dance partner, and then I'm going to move into that extroverted connecting with somebody else and being seen by somebody else. Isn't that a wonderful thing to do? Suzanne says, I'm confused. I now think I'm not an ambivert, not introvert, definitely not extrovert. I'm just weird. Everyone is one or the other, Suzanne. And I will have to do the Myers-Briggs test on you at some point if you're not sure about that. Yes, very good test for finding out what introversion, extroversion you have. Right, let me see. Need to listen to Billy Idol and get dancing with yourself, Michelle says. Absolutely, absolutely. And pretty much, whatever rune you have, do a bit of dancing this week. Do a bit of dancing and say, yes, I'm dancing with the rhythm of myself. Whatever dance tunes work for you, this is a great week to be doing that. So we've got the Gibo rune here. And the Gibo rune is talking about, it talks about structure a little bit, is actually what's coming through. So it's the rune of gift giving. So, Gibo, give yourself the gift of dance this week. Give yourself the gift of what energizes me. Do I need to be alone? Do I need to be connected? All of those things are coming through with the gift giving. But it's also talking about structure, because it can be that the Ewaz rune, which we've mentioned, the rune of partnership, is very much what I've been doing in this moment. I can see Pamela saying, love the fluidity of this chat, and it is a very fluid chat, which is very much in the Ewaz energy. Makes sense for me. I'm connecting in with the moon. I've got the Ewaz rune going on. It's my lunar rune. You're moving and you're flowing in the moment. But the Gibo rune is required to provide that structure, so that when you do get too far out of your energetic, I don't want to say comfort zone, that's wrong, like your signature, too far out of your energetic signature, your rhythm, your dance, you've already got those little structural bits in place that give you that time. So this is a little bit about forming habits. It's one of the reasons why working with the Wheel of the Year, that automatically provides that space for us to connect with different aspects of ourselves, of our soul, of our cyclical rhythms, is helpful and useful, because sometimes we might not feel like it. We might be a bit like, we can get so stuck in one energy mode, even if it is draining us, we're unable to get out of it. And so looking at the cycles that you have in place through the week. So, for me, I know that today's a busy day. I've got quite a lot of stuff on, and my normal rest time after Middle Earth readings isn't available to me, and I need to keep that in mind and not just go, well, I'll just leave it. You know, I need to be aware of that and build that into later in the day, because if I don't, I will not bring my best self to my work later this evening. So, you know, that's scheduled in for later. So what are the things that you need to do in order to find the structure, there, and to create that structure for yourself? So you'll remember that this week is all about receiving through the waxing phase of the moon. So this is where taking your rune and looking at what we've been talking about, how can I do a little bit of a dance with that rune? How can I feel into it that little bit more? My rune for this lunar cycle is Bacano. It always makes me laugh every time I get Bacano. And every time I receive the Bacano rune, which doesn't happen as frequently as it used to, it was one of my teacher runes, like a really, really powerful spirit guide rune for me. And the runes come up and they say, you're not claiming your power, or you haven't taken this great journey of inner transformation. Here I am, I'll help you out with it. You know, they come along and they do that. And so I'm going to be looking for Bacano for two things with Bacano. So I'm always looking for, what is the next learning? What's the next piece for me? And I was really pleased I received a beautiful care package. I'm doing a program with Kate Wolf at the moment, and I got a lovely care package last night. Well, it wasn't last night, but I opened it last night because I wanted to be in the right zone to like really receive it. It's part of my Bacano, you know, true deep receiving. I've got all of my little bits down here. They're really nice. I've got a new hot water bottle, various things like that. It's like this soothing, calming, like deeply Bacano energy of care and rest and nourishing. So I'm looking to receive that Bacano energy and to see where it pops up for me through the course of this month. Very great, you know, really great for the waxing period of time to be looking at where does the energy of your rune pop up, where does it come up, what can it teach you. But I'm also looking to say, where can I more deeply claim the power of Bacano for myself? It is my south node rune with my birth runes, and for many years I really struggled with them. I couldn't understand why it kept on saying, well, it's in your south node, which means that it's there, it's my comfort zone, and it didn't feel like it, and it took other people to make me recognize that perhaps the power is always there in me, and sometimes we can't see ourselves. You know, sometimes we can't see ourselves. We're always looking for the parts of us that are missing. One of the really important pieces that I do with my one-to-one work, when we look at tools like the birth runes or the Myers-Briggs or 360 feedback or anything like that, is saying what is needed for me to receive myself more deeply, more profoundly in the moment, to recognize my own truth. It's something that our society makes quite difficult for us, because it's always asking us to stretch and to become something different, and to, you want to got a B in that test, you could get an A in that test. So you got an A, you should get an A star. Oh, well, you've done brilliantly at that, but that was only your SATs or your GCSEs and A-level, your A-level to do as well. It's always asking us to say you're good, but you're not good enough. What's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? You have a lot, but you don't have enough. You give a lot, but you don't give enough. It does that to us a lot of the time. And if we say, actually, I'm fine as I am, people are, well, that person's a bit lazy, aren't they? They're just resting on their laurels. Pride comes before a fall. All of those things, deeply societal and deeply destructive. We need to be able to do both. Remembering the lesson of today, which is all about, yes, I can be out in the extroverted mode and saying, what can I do to stretch and grow and la 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 la. But what do I then need to do in order to receive myself fully, to see myself and to recognize my own power in that moment? So this process of solitude that helps us to be in greater service, to embody greater service. Now, have we done all of the runes? So we've done Lagus sufficiently? Oh, is there anything more that the Laguz rune wants to say? The Laguz rune, as it's the rune in Suna's chariot, I just wanted to make sure that I'd really felt into it. Well, what I will say actually is that when Odin was saying, wanting you to talk about introversion and what that means and how it can be powerful to be an introvert, Suna is an extrovert. No, she's undoubtedly an extrovert. She is out there. She is, pulling the chariot of the sun along. She's doing the thing. She doesn't get diverted from her course. She is visible. She's lighting the way for all. When she's not lighting the way in the northern hemisphere, she's doing it in the southern hemisphere. She is fully engaged with life. And it's a wonderful, beautiful energy to be in. But we are not the sun, and she reminds us that she has her brother Mani, who she shines her light upon Mani, and he diverts off in all sorts of directions and gets distracted and thinks about other stuff and does the thing, and and he needs to stay on course. He's got his wolf that keeps him on course, and Suna has a wolf that is pursuing her as well. And what she says is that she says, yes, I can be seen as being like this extrovert who is out there always doing the thing and being totally visible. But she will be consumed one day by the wolf. She will move into shadow. And the other thing that she mentions is that Suna and Sol are mother and daughter. So I use Suna for the goddess of the sun. But Sol is her mother, and in some legends, Sol is she's the primary deity at the moment, and then Ragnarok will come and she'll be devoured, and her daughter will take over. And but often when I go and see them, they share the chariot of the sun, And so she was like, I embody the extroverted energy, I'm there and I embody that energy, but even I swap. With my mother / daughter, / renewed part of myself, part of me that's been devoured by a wolf and sat in darkness for a while and has then come back up again. So there is a sense of not judging a book by its cover that comes through. And I think that's important when we think about the Laguz energy and this energy of water, which is both death and life. That all things, if we look, closely enough, contain multiple facets. Even the person who seems to have it all sussed and perfect and wonderful, that's not true, is it? It reminds me, we are finishing our period of time working with the goddess Ran on illusion and enchantment. And I think perhaps that's the final piece to bring in, is that our world is full of illusion and enchantment, because we are looking at modified versions of other people all of the time. Even if we're attempting to show up as authentically as possible on our screens, as I'm doing right now, you're still not seeing the wholeness of me. You're not necessarily seeing me, hanging about in my pajamas or having a little shout at my children or any of those things. We are all multifaceted, and yet the world that we inhabit presents stories. We are presenting stories, visual stories often now for ourselves, which brings in that Suna, the sun, that which brings the visual, and Odin, the story keeper, together, this very powerful place. And Suna and Odin say, even we have to retreat sometimes from those stories or from that brightness in order to reset and come back out and connect with what is true. That ability to connect with truth that is before the light, the darkness before the light, the sound before the words. Those things are important. That time of stepping back is important. So that's a bit of a circumnavigation around the Suna's chariot in Laguz, but I think that's what Suna wanted to share. That yes, her role is to always be present for us. You know, the infallibility of the sun. We need to rely on that. We want to believe that it's always there, that she never retreats. But, no, she also needs to be able to have downtime and to reconnect with purpose as well. So we all have that within us. Wonderful. So, with that, taking your rune for the week, what is it there to offer to you? How can you breathe it in or express it out through the course of this week ahead? What does it offer you in terms of thinking about deepening into solitude and the way in which that solitude, that alone time, that time of replenishment and nurture then allows you to be of greater service? So wishing you all a wonderful week ahead. I'm looking forward to seeing many of you at the Dream Wheel retreat this evening, and many of you at our Hearth Hygge session later in the week on Friday, when we're going to be unpacking and integrating all that we have learned with the goddess Ran as well, prior to opening our next cycle of work with the goddess Skadi. So I will see you all very soon. Love and blessings to every single one of you. Take care.